Picture this. You're gliding from Dubai to Abu Dhabi in under 50 minutes. No traffic, no airport lines, just a silver bullet slicing through the desert at 200 kilometers an hour. But here's the twist. The UAE, a nation built on oil, is now pouring billions into trains. Why? Because what they're building could change travel in the entire Middle East forever. At the Global Rail 2025 exhibition in Abu Dhabi, something unprecedented happened. Etihad Rail pulled back the curtain on the UAE's first ever passenger trains. Not concept drawings, not virtual mock-ups. Actual trains, gleaming silver with bold black and red accents, ready to carry passengers across the Emirates starting in 2026. Here's what makes this moment historic. The UAE has never had passenger rail service, ever. In a country famous for the world's tallest building, indoor ski slopes, and artificial islands shaped like palm trees, trains were the one thing they didn't have. Think about that for a second. A nation that built a city in the middle of the desert with more skyscrapers than anywhere except New York and Hong Kong never had a single passenger train line. Until now. The trains themselves look like something from a science fiction film. Long, aerodynamic silver bodies designed to slice through desert heat. Inside, air-conditioned cabins built for comfort in a climate where summer temperatures hit 50 degrees Celsius. Right now, if you want to travel from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, you have two options. Drive on the E11 highway for about 90 minutes through empty desert, or take a short flight that costs more and involves all the hassle of airports. The UAE has some of the highest car ownership rates in the world. Nearly every household has at least one vehicle. The highways connecting the 7 Emirates are packed with SUVs, luxury sedans, and massive trucks hauling goods between cities. This creates a problem that's getting worse every year. Traffic congestion costs the UAE economy an estimated $7 billion annually. That's a billion with a B. Add to that the environmental impact of millions of cars burning fuel in a region already struggling with air quality and climate concerns. Now imagine cutting that travel time to 50 minutes by train. No traffic jams, no fuel stops, no stress. Just smooth, fast travel while you work on your laptop or watch the desert landscape blur past your window. But the economic calculation goes even deeper. The UAE has positioned itself as the Middle East's business hub. Abu Dhabi is the political and financial capital. Dubai is a commercial and tourism powerhouse. Sharjah has major industrial zones. Right now, these cities function almost as separate economies connected by highways. A high-speed rail network changes everything. It turns the entire UAE into one interconnected economic zone. Someone living in Abu Dhabi can easily commute to work in Dubai. A business meeting in Sharjah becomes an easy day trip from anywhere in the country. Tourists can visit multiple Emirates without renting cars or booking internal flights. The government estimates this rail network will boost GDP by at least $13 billion over the next decade. It will create 9,000 direct jobs and another 30,000 indirect jobs in tourism, real estate, and services. And it positions the UAE as a logistics hub connecting Europe, Asia, and Africa through integrated rail and sea routes. Let's talk about the scale of what's being built here, because the numbers are staggering. The Etihad Rail network will span 1,200 kilometers when completed. That's roughly the distance from Los Angeles to Phoenix, or London to Berlin, except they're building it through one of the harshest environments on Earth. The project costs $13.6 billion. To put that in perspective, that's more than the GDP of 50 countries. It is the same amount as building roughly 400 regular hospitals or 800 schools. The UAE is betting more than a tenth of their annual budget on trains. The network will connect 11 cities and towns across all 7 Emirates. It includes Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, Ras Al Khaimah, Fujairah, and several smaller industrial zones that most people outside the UAE have never heard of. When fully operational, the system will carry 36.5 million passengers per year. That's nearly 4 times the current population of the UAE. The calculation here is simple. They are building for the 15 million people they expect to live in the UAE by 2030. The trains will travel at speeds up to 200 kilometers per hour on the passenger lines. The freight lines, which are already partially operational, move cargo at 120 kilometers per hour. This makes it one of the fastest integrated rail systems in the Middle East. But here's where it gets really interesting. Phase 1 of the freight network is already working. Since 2016, Etihad Rail has been moving cargo between the industrial zones and ports. They have already transported more than 3 million tons of freight, taking thousands of trucks off the highways. The passenger service launching in 2026 is actually phase 2 of a much larger vision that has been in development for over a decade. Building a high-speed rail network in the UAE is not like building one in Europe or Asia. The challenges here are extreme in ways most people don't realize. First, there's the heat. Summer temperatures in the UAE regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius. That is 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Steel rails expand in extreme heat. The tracks need special engineering to prevent warping and buckling. The trains themselves need cooling systems that can maintain comfortable cabin temperatures while racing through an environment hot enough to cook an egg on the pavement. Then there's the sand. The UAE is literally built on desert. Fine sand particles get into everything. They infiltrate mechanical systems, clog air filters, and create abrasion that wears down moving parts. The trains need sealed systems and special filtration to operate reliably in these conditions. The ground itself presents another challenge. Much of the UAE sits on sabkha, a type of salt flat with a crusty surface layer over soft, salty soil underneath. Building stable rail foundations on sabkha requires extensive ground preparation and specialized construction techniques. In some areas, engineers had to excavate and replace the soil entirely before laying tracks. Water scarcity adds another layer of complexity. Construction projects typically require massive amounts of water for concrete mixing, dust control, and equipment cooling. In the UAE, every drop of water is precious. The project required careful planning to minimize water usage and maximize recycling. And then there's the sheer logistical challenge of building through populated areas. The rail line passes through some of the most densely developed urban zones in the world: Dubai Marina, downtown Dubai, Abu Dhabi's business districts. Building rail infrastructure through these areas without disrupting daily life requires precision engineering and construction methods that minimize noise, vibration, and visual impact. The solution? Elevated tracks through urban areas, underground tunnels through the most sensitive zones, and ground-level tracks through the desert sections. The network includes 145 bridges and overpasses. Some stations will be architectural landmarks in their own right, designed by the same firms that created the UAE's most iconic buildings. Here's what most coverage of this project completely misses. The United Arab Emirates is building this rail network to connect with the broader Gulf Cooperation Council rail network. That's a planned 2,200-kilometer system that will eventually link all 6 GCC countries: Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, and the UAE. Imagine a single rail journey from Kuwait City to Muscat, from Riyadh to Dubai. Goods and people moving seamlessly across borders that were once barriers to easy travel and trade. But the vision extends even further. The UAE is positioning itself as the critical link between the GCC railway and major seaports. Abu Dhabi's Khalifa port and Dubai's Jebel Ali port are among the busiest in the world. Connect those ports to a regional rail network, and suddenly you have a logistics corridor that can move goods from container ships to destinations across the Arabian Peninsula in a fraction of the time it takes by truck. This matters enormously for global trade. Roughly 30% of the world's container traffic passes through the Suez Canal and the Gulf region. Efficient rail connections mean faster delivery times, lower costs, and less carbon emissions compared to road transport. China has been watching this development very carefully. The UAE's rail network could potentially connect to China's Belt and Road Initiative, creating rail routes that link Chinese manufacturing centers to Middle Eastern markets and beyond to Africa and Europe. The UAE is essentially building itself into an irreplaceable position in global logistics, not just for the Middle East, but as a critical junction point between 3 continents. Here's a fact that should make everyone pay attention. Transportation accounts for 23% of global carbon emissions. In the UAE, that number is even higher because of the heavy reliance on cars and short-haul flights. A single train can carry as many passengers as 600 cars. It produces 75% less carbon dioxide per passenger kilometre than car travel. When you multiply that across millions of journeys per year, the environmental impact is massive. The UAE has committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2050. That's an incredibly ambitious goal for a country built on oil wealth. But the government understands that the future economy won't be based on fossil fuels. It will be based on services, tourism, logistics, and technology. The rail network is a critical piece of that transition. By making train travel faster and more convenient than driving, the UAE can reduce its transportation emissions without forcing people to sacrifice convenience. That's the key to successful climate policy. Make the sustainable choice the easiest choice. The trains themselves will run on a power grid that's increasingly fed by renewable energy. The UAE is investing heavily in solar power, with massive solar farms under construction across the country. The Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park in Dubai will be the largest single-site solar park in the world when completed, generating 5,000 megawatts of clean energy. Connecting high-speed rail to renewable energy creates a transportation system that's not just low emission, but potentially zero emission as the power grid transitions to clean energy sources. So in 2026, the first passengers will board those sleek silver trains and travel between Emirates in a way that's never been possible before. They'll experience what the UAE government calls the future of mobility. Will people actually use it? The UAE has spent billions building this network. They have overcome incredible engineering challenges. They have positioned themselves strategically for the next era of global logistics. But in a country where luxury SUVs are everywhere and driving is a lifestyle, will people really give up their cars for trains? Will businesses shift their logistics from trucks to rail? Will tourists choose train travel over rental cars and taxis? The countdown to 2026 has begun, and what happens next might just change how we think about transportation in the Middle East forever. The real question is, where does it take us? Let us know what you think in the comments section. If you think this train is futuristic, wait until you see what Saudi Arabia is hiding in the desert. A city so ambitious, it's built in a single line, 500 meters tall, 170 kilometers long, and sealed off from the world. Click watch next to see that video. Thanks for watching.